There is absolutely nothing wrong with this truck. Why in the world is it here then? Let's find out. Let's get started. Unlike a previous Dodge Ram we just saw not too long ago where the engine was shelled out, this one has nothing wrong with it. It's a 2019 Ram. It's not a Dodge Ram anymore. They just call it a Ram 1500 with the 5.7 liter Hemi. And the reason why it's here is a reason that all of you should be following. Scheduled maintenance. It's at 101,000 miles. The customer said, let's go ahead on the 100,000 mile service. I want to get everything checked out, make sure everything's in good shape and stays in good shape throughout the life of the vehicle. So we're going to check those things out today, make sure this is good to go for the customer and what we're going to recommend for them before it leaves here. And yes, we will be recommending some services, some things that needs to be done on this to follow the maintenance schedule. It's in your owner's manual. Everything's listed there. If you don't have the manual, you can look online, look at Google. A lot of times that stuff's in a forum somewhere, or you could order an owner's manual. I wanted to talk to you guys a lot about that. I have a friend in Germany. His name is Mirko. He owns a parts and a repair business pretty much in the center of Germany. We've actually did a video. He came here to visit. It's not too long ago. But I asked him one day, I said, why is it that the Mercedes and BMWs and all these vehicles in America, they just don't last very long? And he said, I'll tell you why, Wizard. Because people in America have zero interest in scheduled maintenance. And because they feel like it's constantly reaching into their pocket and pulling money out. And immediately they retract and they're like, hell no, you're not getting any more of my money. It runs fine. It's not broken. Stop trying to get into my wallet. And that's kind of the mentality. I've seen that with a lot of Americans, but that's actually the wrong way to go about it. He said over in Germany, the Mercedes, the BMWs and things, they don't break down all the time like they do over here, because when the scheduled maintenance says this is due, the people bring it in and get it done, and they don't squabble about the price. They say, I want this thing to last. So let's take a look around this thing. It's very nice. It's kind of a pearl white color. It's a big beefy Ram. It's kind of a flat face like our Persian cat, Mrs. Wizard.
It is. It is very flat up here.
It definitely is. It's got some beefy 5-spoke wheels on it with 6 lug nuts. And as we go down the side, you don't see any damage or anything. It's fairly new, but it does have this really cool Lear topper. It's actually color painted to match. It's identically done. They did a very good job on it. Around the back you can see that it is a Laramie 4x4. It is a local truck. And just like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they're no longer called Dodge Rams. It's just Ram. Even when I went to order parts and look up some things that we might recommend for this vehicle, you click on Dodge, you won't find Ram. You have to go to Ram and then find 1500. So they've tried to differentiate it there. And again, 4x4. This is a very clean truck, very nice condition. The customer's wanting to keep it that way. Let's go ahead and hop under the hood and take a peek. Here is our 5.7 Hemi, and it looks awfully small. Even though the engine's kind of a large size, these are huge engine bays. They're made to fit Cummins diesels. So when you don't have the diesel, you have all this open space, which is wonderful, because you can work on anything on the sides or the front of this engine, and you can just take your time and work and don't get mad. I actually really enjoy when automakers give you plenty of room to work on your engine. We are going to recommend, as one of the things the 100,000 mile service states, is replacing all 16 spark plugs. Yes, you heard that right. It's a V8 that has 16 spark plugs. There are 2 spark plugs per cylinder. I've actually quoted this for customers that they know they have a Hemi, but they don't understand that it has 2 spark plugs per cylinder, and they think, they're like, what? I don't have a V16. No, it's a V8, but it has 2 per cylinder. Let's take a look. You can see the coil packs there. They're very wide. And the reason why, there's 4 coil packs there, but each pack has 2 boots that go down into the valve cover, into the head area, 2 spark plugs per pack. The 100,000 mile service actually doesn't recommend a whole lot on this thing. One of them being the spark plugs, maybe an air filter, and another one being the cabin filter. So let's let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around the interior, and she can show you the cabin filter in there.
There it is, 101,093 miles. And go ahead and take our hand off that light there so you can see a little bit better. But this is a nice gauge cluster, easy to read, kind of a little bit more modern than what we think of a truck. But let me back up just a little bit. This truck does not look like any pickup we're used to seeing back in the 90s. Got a leather wrapped dash and it's in really nice shape. It says up there we've got Harman Kardon stereo in here. As we move over, you'll see that it's more leather, and it says it is the Laramie edition. Huge screen in here. I've seen so many cars that don't have a screen this big. That's crazy. But we have some lovely faux wood on the top. As we move to the side, you'll see kind of almost an iridescent gold wrapping around that whole HVAC radio whole conglomerate thing there. We have our settings for our 4-wheel drive, and then we have more for our CDs and USB ports. As we move down, you'll see they've got their work gloves, box of tissues, definitely needed for this time of year, nice cup holder, and in our center section here, well, we've got a tire gauge, we've got some USB stuff, some charging things, and of course some doggy-doo bags. That's nice of them to be considerate and not leaving those somewhere. But notice, this is a whole set. It is not a bench seat. There are 2 captain's chairs here, so this does not seat 6 people. This is a 5-seater. The center section to our seats does have a nice perforated leather in the center with a nice kind of a herringbone design. As we move up, it does say Laramie embroidered into the shoulder rest there, and then we have a nice headrest as well. The door card has more faux wood installed, and it's easy to control the window right there in front of that door handle. As we move down, there is no glove box, and that is simply because you take it out. So you very gently, because it's hard plastic, you remove the glove box and you will find there's your cabin filter. And yeah, I think we will be recommending a new cabin filter for this guy. Because this is a 4-door truck, it does have a full set of seats in the back. So we have 3 people that can sit back there. It does have a 40-60 split in case you do want to lay it down to have more interior cargo space beyond the covered top in the back. Another thing we don't typically see in trucks is this huge panoramic roof, which currently is covered, but look how large that is. It's most of the roof by itself. Wow. So we're back at our steering wheel, and we have all of our normal controls we see on every other steering wheel. We do have a really nice ram's head here in the center in front of our airbag. So this is looking really good. Not a typical design for a truck. It doesn't look like it definitely has 100,000 miles on it. Let's get this up in the air and see what it looks like on the underneath.
This thing is pretty big.
Yeah, this thing is huge. There's a lot of weight on the lift here.
It definitely is. This is about as big of a truck that we go to work on a half-ton. Maybe it's a little long. This is about as big as we go. If you go to 3/4 ton, 1 ton with stuff, we turn that work down. We really don't work on that stuff. That's finger smashing, hammer banging, heavy duty work. We don't get into that stuff. But let's check this thing over. 100,000 miles on an American truck. What can we expect to see? Let's take a look. Look at all that room, guys. I don't even have to take anything apart, and I could do the water pump on here. I could do the main pulley. I could do the AC compressor. This is really, really cool. I really like this. It puts me in a good mood. Very easy to work on. Looks like we have an air deflector, an air dam, or something that goes down here. Kind of interesting. I've not seen one of those before. We don't work on tons of trucks. Let us know in the comments, what exactly does this do? It's very interesting. Brakes are halfway used up. Struts are not leaking. Sway bar links are not loose. Nothing's loose there. Our CV boots are nice. Here's our differential. Not leaking. CV boots are nice. Shock is dry. Brakes, again, maybe 60 or 70% actually, now that I can see it a little better there. Nothing leaking out of our steering rack, which on most modern vehicles today, which for older people, this freaks them out, there's no power steering pump. There's no power steering fluid. It's electric. Let's take a look. Even on this big, heavy truck, we have electric power steering. No power steering pump or hoses or anything to go bad, just a motor. Here's our big transmission with no leaks coming out of the pan. Really, we haven't seen any leaks anywhere. This is something we're going to recommend to the customer that's not on the scheduled maintenance. It's not necessarily a full-blown filter service and everything, but just a fluid service to change it out. A lot of manufacturers say these are sealed for life or this or that, but I'm a firm believer that every 100,000 miles you do a fluid service, and it really helps to keep these transmissions last a long, long time.
Now, Wizard, do you change that interval if it's towing a lot of stuff?
It's still around 100,000 miles. If you tow heavy, you might want to check your fluid every so often. If it starts turning dark, then it's time for a fluid change. And here's our front drive shaft. Nothing loose there. The cats are still there. Meow. Here's our big transfer case. I'm looking at the yoke here and also some of these to see if they've been serviced. It looks like they haven't been, but it doesn't show any services needed at this point on that. Nothing loose on the U-joints. Here's the big beefy drive shaft, and this U-joint is good. And wow, you're far away, Mrs. Wizard.
Well, I'm just in awe of this really big, really long drive shaft.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous myself as well. Here is the rear axle. Everything's looking good there. And now that we're at this U-joint, I want to talk to you guys about something since we're on the topic of services. A lot of our older customers are completely baffled when they say, please grease all the U-joints. And you're like, bro, we don't do that anymore. There's literally no grease zerks. Look, there's nothing. When they die, you replace them. There isn't any services on these. There's no grease zerks. And when I explain that to them, they think we're lying. They're like, man, there's grease zerks on the U-joint. And we're like, no, there's not. That's kind of the way it is now. They're sealed for life on the U-joints. Here's our rear track bars that keep that rear axle located. We don't have leaf springs on these anymore really on trucks, unless they're really heavy duty. So these keep everything located this way and that way. Here's our coil spring. Shock is dry. Brakes are about half gone in the back. Same on the brakes over here. Sway bar links are good. Shock is dry. I don't see any serious issues on this vehicle at all. Let's check the tires. So here's our date code, 17th week of 2022. So these tires are still good. These are called Ice Guards from Yokohama. They look very beefy too. Let's get this thing on the ground. So one thing that differentiates this truck from the last one we saw, which is a grenaded engine, this customer keeps up with all the maintenance. Now that doesn't guarantee it's going to be perfect. There still can be factory flaws and defects that can fail no matter how well you maintain it. But this one you can tell has been maintained very well. Now I bring up this video for you guys. I'm not getting on to you. I'm not being a jerk or being angry. It's just that when Mirko mentioned that to me not too long ago, it kind of hit home and I was like, you know what, Mirko, you're right. Every time we recommend services to customers, it's 9 out of 10 times that here in America that they say, it's not broken, it runs fine, I don't need that right now. And we try, it's like, you really should be doing it. No, I don't want to spend the money. I can't even get them to do hood struts or things that help hold the hood up. Or, I mean, it's like, come on, you really need to maintain your vehicle here and there. No, it's not broken. Why do I need to do that? So there's the mentality. I have learned that is the mentality. If it starts, it runs, it doesn't give me any trouble, it doesn't need any services. That's kind of the mentality. Maybe we need to break that because it really does help to keep these things lasting much longer. This is an investment that you have poured money into to buy. You should also put a little money into to maintain it. Although it's not going to grow in value, it is an investment nonetheless. With new trucks today approaching $100,000, you probably shouldn't be getting a new one every 3 years. That's the old school mentality. That's not going to work today in today's inflation-riddled economy. The thing that you really need to do is once you do get that expensive truck, make it last as long as you can. One thing that really helps is you can put a little bit of money a month aside just for maintenance when it comes due. It could be $50, $100, $200, whatever it is that you can afford to put into a savings account, and that's maintenance. Scheduled maintenance fund is what it is. And if you hit the lottery and you don't need to pull out of there to do any maintenance, that's an nest egg you can use on your next vehicle. So we're going to recommend to the customer some additional items. We're going to talk about maybe the coolant and also the transmission of service. It's not actually listed on the 100,000 mile service, but it's something I recommend just from years of seeing vehicles coming in and out of the shop. It needs a cabin filter, an air filter, it needs spark plugs, all 16 of them, and a few other small items. It really doesn't list a whole lot for the 100,000 mile mark for the services on this vehicle. Now when it asks you to replace the plugs, it's not asking you to do all the coils and all that stuff. Make sure you're not paying for coils at a shop that says we're going to do all of it, coils and plugs. Just do the plugs. That's all it needs, unless there's some other issues. So I definitely want to do a video for you guys today to show you how important scheduled maintenance is, and how there's definitely a kind of a mentality of, if it's broken, I'll do the services. You shouldn't wait till it's broken or it won't physically move anymore to finally do your services. They should be done annually. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to do the services on this truck or any other vehicle in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut if you purchase anything. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.